Hello, welcome to Feminism TV. My name is Sufiah Yusof. I'm going to be your channel curator. You can find links to my Twitter and my website somewhere on my profile. Feminism, it's a big topic right now. What's it all about? Well, it's a big topic. It means different things to different people, depending on whom you ask. Here are some of my personal, instinctive thoughts. Firstly, I think it's important to remember for a lot of the world's population, women and men, the basics, by which I mean a peaceful society, provision of adequate food and contraception, a legal system which protects you from domestic abuse, whether it be abusive partners or parents, is not actually a day-to-day reality in people's lives. There's a strong argument towards putting the majority of social and political energy into these causes. That considered, after basic needs are met, there are a lot of feminism issues still out there. Now, I personally believe where a lot of the public debate is, what the media focuses on for issues regarding feminism isn't actually where real life, where real change, where anything authentic or genuine is happening. My view is that journalists are obsessed with manipulating and creating stories, so gender issues and the lives of women are reduced to simplistic, over-dramatic sound bites and cliches. There's so little space given to people just getting on with their lives in terms of their sexuality, education, careers and personal relationships. In the rather twisted world of the media and feminism, everyone is either a hero, a role model, a villain, or a fallen person. There are things men and women are allowed to be interested in, and things they aren't allowed to be interested in, which probably says a bit more about the minds of the journalists making the story than the people concerned. My particular interest in terms of blogging is media issues. This is based on interactions I had with the media when younger. My personal experience was the mainstream media, not just the tabloid press, but more respectable sources, were desperate to take one issue that wouldn't even have existed if they hadn't made a thing about it, report it in a certain way, and then feed off the drama and rage and chaos they themselves had created. For example, I myself have a fairly toxic, abusive family. I went no contact with them fairly early on in my life. It's quite a common experience for a young woman. It doesn't bother me. I'm a fairly content adult. And I'm lucky to live in a country which had laws to support me in detaching from my abusive family. Now, I found that journalists following my story, which was not very interesting, I got into Oxford at quite a young age, these journalists would often take one detail about my life by force, by manipulation if necessary, without my consent, then feed it back to my mentally ill father. And they'd get a reaction from him, so they could then report it as if it was an ongoing story. But this ongoing story wouldn't even have existed or be relevant to anyone without their input. I think for feminism the same process applies. For example, recently in the UK, in the world of science, a senior male scientist said a very vague, not very PR friendly, a little bit eccentric comment about female scientists. Now, this comment was taken wildly out of context by the world's media and suddenly is being reported like it's the most significant thing in science today, which I think is an insult to female scientists, high-achieving female scientists, because I'm sure for them the most significant thing in science is the work they're actually engaged with, not what some guy thinks of them who probably isn't relevant to their direct lives at all. I'm a mature science student, so very low level, very low key. I enjoy it. I don't have a lot to say about it. I just do it. And I'm sure lots of women like science for the same reason. I've got no interest in forcing science to be something that girls should like because it's good for them and it makes them better than girls who don't like science. And that's all there is to say about it, really. I think in general, society, including science, is less sexist simply because more women are now entering the workforce and are getting to higher levels. So there's a trickle-down effect. So there was this whole situation created about this male scientist comments. It's not the fault of the male scientist who said those comments. It's not the fault of the woman who responded to these comments because the media went to them and said, "What do you think of this guy? You should condemn him." It's the fault of the media trying to stir up emotions. In terms of gender issues, in terms of feminism, I think there's a really big disconnect between what's actually in the debate and what's actually happening in real life. Of course, having things like good legislation and provision of adequate contraception does improve the lives of both men and women, apart from those who are determined to be miserable for whatever reason. And I think the name of the game for feminism is to encourage men and women to have the social tools to construct emotionally meaningful, peaceful day-to-day lives in which they can interact with each other in a positive way, which encourages their creativity and emotional and personal happiness. I do try and practice what I preach and live like this myself. So a bit about myself: I'm a mature student. I have a day job as well, which takes up some time. I date. I enjoy art and culture, looking forward to some summer Shakespeare, one of the great things about living in the UK. I'm currently physically exhausted from training for a big sports event, trying to balance out dance practice with weightlifting. I'm only allowed to drink soft drinks and hot chocolate for the time being, but once this sports event has passed, I'm looking forward to a really nice big glass of red wine. So very busy but content. And I think that's what being a woman is all about, finding a personal life, a work, career, educational life, which you feel really engaged with and content to lose yourself in, really. I think there's so much social pressure to keep up appearances and live for other people rather than just thinking, does this make sense to me? It's very common for women to be encouraged to feel guilty about making choices that don't appease some mournful parental figure or society or other woman, and then I think to wake up and think, gosh, where did my life go? I opted out of this fairly early on and did my own thing. Probably a bit of a hippie at heart, really, and it all seems good so far. So that's a bit about me and my background. I'm really looking forward to putting together content for here. Thank you to everyone who sent in ideas for what to put on Feminism TV via my blog contact form. I really appreciate all that feedback. Please do have a look around my existing content. Thank you again for listening and hope to catch you later. Goodbye.